The mid-15th century in Japan was a time when the very foundations of order began to tremble. The Ashikaga shogunate, long the arbiter of military and political authority, had grown weak, its influence crumbling beneath the weight of mismanagement, intrigue, and a growing sense of autonomy among provincial rulers. Kyoto, the ancient capital and symbolic heart of the nation, had seen the ebb and flow of power for centuries. Yet even its hallowed streets could not withstand the coming storm. In 1467, the spark that would ignite decades of war flickered into a violent blaze with the eruption of the Onin War, a succession dispute that tore through the capital and left the shogunate impotent. By the time the flames of Kyoto had dimmed, central authority had vanished, and Japan's provinces became fragmented realms, each ruled by warlords willing to fight and die for power. The collapse of order was not sudden, though it appeared so to contemporaries. For decades prior, the Ashikaga shoguns had struggled to assert themselves. Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa, a man more devoted to poetry and aesthetics than governance, faced the growing ambitions of rival generals and their powerful families. When he hesitated over the question of succession, torn between appointing his brother or his newly born son, the rift within the capital widened. Two clans, long intertwined in both marriage and rivalry, emerged as adversaries: Hosokawa Katsumoto and Yamana Sozan. The conflict, initially a matter of allegiance and courtly politics, spiraled rapidly into open warfare. Samurai armies filled the streets of Kyoto, burning aristocratic mansions, shrines, and temples alike, and the city descended into anarchy. By the war's end, the capital was a landscape of smoldering ruins, a grim symbol of a nation where no single hand could guide its destiny. From this destruction emerged a new reality. The provinces, once subject to Kyoto's edicts, now exercised unprecedented autonomy. Daimyo, regional lords of varying stature, began to treat their lands as personal fiefs, collecting taxes, raising armies, and forging alliances as suited their interests. Even minor samurai and local gentry, who had once been bound by strict hierarchies, found opportunities to rise in a world where loyalty was mutable and force determined legitimacy. Villages became militarized zones, and the line between soldier and peasant blurred as commoners took up arms in defense of their homes or in pursuit of plunder. In every province, local conflicts multiplied, creating a tapestry of violence and ambition that stretched across the archipelago. The early decades of this turbulent era, later remembered as the Sengoku, or Warring States period, were marked by constant warfare, punctuated by fleeting alliances. Some of the most formidable daimyo of the age began to assert themselves, shaping the destinies of entire regions. Takeda Shingen, lord of Kai province, became renowned for his strategic brilliance and the discipline of his armies, while Uesugi Kenshin of Ichigo earned a reputation as both a devout warrior and a shrewd tactician. Their legendary clashes along the mountains of Shinano, especially at Kawanakajima, illustrated both the skill and the ruthlessness that would define the period. Meanwhile, the Hojo clan dominated the Kanto plain from Odawara, and the Mori of Aki province extended their reach across western Honshu. Even religious communities wielded power. Militant Iko-Iki Buddhist leagues, particularly in Kaga province, organized peasant militias to seize political control, challenging the very notion that only samurai could govern. Into this landscape of ceaseless conflict arrived forces from beyond Japan's shores. Portuguese traders, landing on Tanegashima in 1543, introduced the matchlock firearm, an innovation that would transform Japanese warfare. Initially a curiosity, the gun was quickly recognized as a tool of unprecedented power. daimyo invested heavily in producing and training troops with these weapons, changing the dynamics of battlefield engagements. Massed ranks of arquebusiers could repel cavalry charges that had once decided battles in moments. These new weapons, combined with improvements in castle architecture, stone walls, deep moats, and elevated towers, transformed not only military strategy, but the very appearance of Japanese towns, which began to cluster around fortified castles. Yet the story of the Sengoku period is not merely one of conquest and innovation. It is also a tale of human ambition, cunning, and the profound reshaping of society. The era's defining figures, Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, emerged from this chaos not merely as warriors, but as architects of a new order. Nobunaga, brilliant and merciless, leveraged new technologies and daring strategies to challenge both rival lords and the remnants of the old shogunate. Hideyoshi, rising from peasant roots, demonstrated extraordinary political acumen and an ability to integrate warriors, bureaucrats, and merchants into a unified administration. Finally, Ieyasu, patient and calculating, would consolidate the work of his predecessors, bringing peace to the archipelago after more than a century of bloodshed. The era's transformations extended beyond politics and military affairs. The constant mobility of armies, the construction of castle towns, and the rise of trade and commerce nurtured a wealthy and influential merchant class. Urban centers grew, and along with them, new cultural forms took shape. Tea ceremonies, haiku poetry, and theatrical performances flourished, blending the elegance of courtly tradition with the robust sensibilities of the warrior class. Even in a time defined by violence, creativity thrived, leaving a lasting imprint on Japanese society. By the close of the Sengoku period, Japan had been irrevocably changed. Centuries-old hierarchies had been tested and reshaped. Regional powers had been consolidated under a central authority, and the foundation for a unified nation-state had been laid. The rise of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603 signaled the end of an age of fragmentation and the beginning of a long era of relative peace, stability, and cultural development. The legacy of the Warring States period was thus both stark and profound. A country forged in fire, emerging as a single, organized polity, capable of withstanding internal strife and projecting order for generations to come. Even in the earliest years of the Sengoku period, the pulse of conflict was inseparable from the rhythms of daily life. Farmers who once tilled rice paddies could suddenly find themselves conscripted as ashigaru, foot soldiers trained to fight for whichever lord commanded their village. Samurai, sworn to loyalty, discovered that allegiance was fluid, shifting with the fortunes of their patrons. Families who had lived peacefully for generations faced displacement or conscription, and entire towns were rebuilt atop the ruins of the old. This constant upheaval created not only a new political reality, but a psychological one, as the Japanese people adapted to a world where the sword, strategy, and chance dictated survival. The narrative of the Warring States period is therefore a story of contrasts: destruction and creation, despair and opportunity, cruelty and cunning. In this crucible, individuals of extraordinary talent and ambition rose to seize control, often against staggering odds. The battles, sieges, and political maneuvers of the era were not abstract events. They were the lived experiences of men and women navigating a world in which power was transient and loyalty conditional. It was in this volatile milieu that Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu would each, in turn, leave their mark, guiding Japan from fragmentation to unity and shaping the destiny of a nation. After the ashes of the Onin War settled across Kyoto, Japan entered a period unlike any it had experienced before. The delicate threads that once tied the provinces to the shogun had been irrevocably severed, and the land fragmented into a patchwork of territories, each controlled by daimyo who ruled with the authority of kings. These were not merely military governors enforcing distant edicts. They were sovereign in all but name. They minted coins, collected taxes, raised armies, and built castles that proclaimed their power to anyone who dared oppose them. The authority of the emperor, once the symbolic center of Japan, had little meaning beyond ceremonial rituals, leaving the daimyo to shape the destiny of their domains. In the early decades following the Onin War, the contest for supremacy became a defining characteristic of the era. The central provinces of Honshu saw the emergence of particularly ambitious and capable warlords. Takeda Shingen, Lord of Kai Province, became a figure of legend. Known for his discipline, strategy, and understanding of both terrain and logistics, Shingen transformed his province into a formidable military base. He drilled his soldiers relentlessly, instilling a combination of obedience, flexibility, and loyalty. His rivalry with Uesugi Kenshin, Lord of Echigo Province, became the stuff of legend. For decades, the two commanders clashed along the rugged landscapes of Shinano Province, in a series of battles collectively remembered as the 5 battles of Kawanakajima. These encounters were not mere tests of strength, but intricate exercises in strategy, psychology, and timing. Shingen relied on rapid movement and encirclement tactics, while Kenshin's bold cavalry charges sought to break enemy lines through sheer force and morale. Elsewhere, in eastern Honshu, the Hojo clan dominated the Kanto region, their influence radiating from Odawara Castle. The Hojo were masters of both diplomacy and intimidation, forming alliances when advantageous and crushing rivals with overwhelming force. In the west, the Mori clan extended their authority across Chugoku, consolidating multiple provinces into a powerful regional hegemony. Far to the south, the Shimazu clan of Satsuma Province in Kyushu gradually brought the southernmost reaches of the archipelago under their command. Their campaigns were often brutal, combining siegecraft with psychological warfare. Even religious institutions could wield temporal power. The militant Iko-Iki leagues, composed of Jodo Shinshu Buddhist peasants and monks, seized Kaga province and governed it collectively, showing that the martial spirit of the era extended far beyond the daimyo. Life during this period was one of perpetual uncertainty. Villages could be conscripted at a moment's notice, and the distinction between peasant and soldier was blurred. Ashigaru, lightly armed infantry drawn from local farmers, became a central part of military operations. These foot soldiers were drilled to march in formation, wield spears, and increasingly fire matchlock guns. Loyalty was often pragmatic rather than feudal. Allegiances shifted as power ebbed and flowed. The concept of Gekukujo, the overturning of superiors by inferiors, permeated the social consciousness. A low-ranking samurai or ambitious peasant could seize power if fortune and skill favored them, creating a dynamic yet precarious social environment. The mid-16th century brought a technological revolution that would redefine warfare in Japan. When Portuguese traders arrived on Tanegashima in 1543, they carried with them matchlock firearms, a novelty that quickly captivated the imagination of the daimyo. Within a few years, Japanese gunsmiths were replicating the Tanegashima arquebus, and lords incorporated these weapons into their armies on an unprecedented scale. The impact was immediate and profound. Cavalry charges, once the decisive tactic in Japanese warfare, could be neutralized by disciplined volleys of gunfire. Nobunaga would later exploit this innovation to devastating effect at Nagashino. But even before his rise, daimyo who adopted firearms gained a formidable advantage. Alongside firearms, castle architecture evolved dramatically. Stone walls replaced timber, moats deepened, and high tenshukaku towers rose above sprawling castle towns. These fortresses were not only military installations, but administrative centers and symbols of authority. Towns grew around them, forming the early foundations of Japan's urban network. Merchants, craftsmen, and samurai alike were drawn to these centers of power, creating hubs of commerce and culture even amidst widespread conflict. Amid this chaos, certain daimyo distinguished themselves not only by martial prowess, but by political acumen. They recognized that success depended as much on diplomacy and alliances as on battlefield victories. Strategic marriages were arranged to cement peace or secure loyalty. Hostage-taking ensured compliance without the need for constant war. And clever use of spies and messengers allowed commanders to anticipate enemy movements. The Sengoku era was a crucible that demanded both the sharpness of the blade and the cunning of the mind. In central Japan, the stage was being set for the emergence of a figure whose ambition and ingenuity would eventually transform the nation. Oda Nobunaga. Born in 1534 in Owari province, Nobunaga was initially considered eccentric, a man whose unorthodox methods and impulsive temper unsettled even his own family. Yet he possessed an unyielding will and a visionary understanding of power. The political and military turbulence of the mid-16th century offered him an opportunity. Through a combination of daring maneuvers, calculated risk-taking, and an uncanny ability to command loyalty, he began consolidating control over Owari and neighboring provinces. Nobunaga's rise exemplified the era itself. Chaotic, opportunistic, and defined by the interplay of chance and strategy. The early campaigns of Nobunaga and his contemporaries illustrate the brutal nature of Sengoku warfare. Battles were fought not merely for territory, but for survival and reputation. Armies clashed in valleys and mountain passes, often under harsh weather conditions that amplified the chaos. Sieges could last months, with attackers starving out defenders while negotiating terms that could spare some lives, yet destroy entire communities. The strategic use of firearms and artillery gradually shifted the balance from personal valor and swordsmanship to coordinated unit tactics and disciplined volleys. Nobunaga recognized this evolution, and his willingness to embrace innovation set him apart from other lords who clung to traditional methods. Even the social fabric of Japan was reshaped by this relentless conflict. Castles and their surrounding towns became centers of economic activity, drawing artisans, merchants, and laborers who supplied the needs of war. Wealthier peasants could improve their standing through martial service, while ambitious samurai sought to expand their influence by aligning with the strongest lords. In this environment, merit and ability often outweighed birthright, though the era's later rulers would impose stricter hierarchies once unification was achieved. The fluidity of the Sengoku period created opportunities for upward mobility, but also imposed harsh consequences on those who miscalculated loyalty or ambition. By the mid-16th century, Japan was a land transformed. The provinces were controlled by ambitious daimyo, whose armies incorporated the latest innovations in firearms and fortifications. Castle towns flourished as centers of trade and culture, even as battles raged on their peripheries. Peasants could find themselves soldiers one day and merchants the next, while samurai navigated shifting loyalties in pursuit of honor, survival, and advancement. the stage was now set for the extraordinary rise of Oda Nobunaga, whose vision and ruthlessness would begin the process of unifying a fractured nation and changing the trajectory of Japanese history forever. The rise of Nobunaga and the subsequent emergence of Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Tokugawa Ieyasu would not occur in a vacuum. It was the conditions of the Sengoku period, the collapse of central authority, the proliferation of independent daimyo, the introduction of firearms, the transformation of castles and towns, and the fluidity of social mobility that made such unprecedented consolidation possible. Without the tumultuous, violent, and chaotic environment of the early Sengoku era, the unification of Japan under a central shogunate might never have occurred. By the 1560s, Japan's fractured provinces had become a mosaic of competing ambitions, where every daimyo wielded absolute authority within his domain, and warfare was a constant companion of life. Amid this turbulent landscape, a figure emerged whose vision, audacity, and ruthlessness would begin to reshape the country. Oda Nobunaga. Born in 1534 in Owari province to a relatively minor branch of the Oda clan, Nobunaga was initially seen as unconventional, eccentric, and even reckless. Stories of his youthful antics, lighting bonfires, parading through town in disorderly fashion, and defying his elders, spread across the province. Yet beneath this apparent chaos lay a mind of extraordinary strategic acumen and an instinct for seizing opportunity. The moment that defined Nobunaga's rise came in 1560 at the Battle of Okehazama. Imagawa Yoshimoto, a powerful warlord from Suruga province, marched west with an army reportedly numbering over 25,000 men, intent on conquering Owari. Nobunaga, commanding only around 2,000 soldiers, faced the prospect of annihilation. Yet he acted with a combination of audacity and cunning, exploiting a sudden thunderstorm that masked his approach. Nobunaga launched a surprise assault on the overconfident Imagawa camp. The attack was swift and devastating. Yoshimoto was killed in the chaos and his forces scattered. This astonishing victory shocked the region and demonstrated that a small, well-led, and disciplined force could overcome even the largest armies. The success at Okehazama catapulted Nobunaga into prominence, drawing the allegiance of previously hesitant vassals and local lords who recognized his potential. In the aftermath, Nobunaga moved to consolidate central Japan, beginning with the provinces surrounding his home base in Owari. He forged strategic alliances through both negotiation and intimidation. One key alliance was with Matsudaira Motoyasu, a rising lord in Mikawa province who would later become the formidable Tokugawa Ieyasu. By securing the eastern flank, Nobunaga freed his forces to campaign northward and westward, gradually absorbing neighboring territories. He demonstrated a remarkable blend of diplomacy and violence, rewarding allies with lands and titles while punishing defiance with ruthless efficiency. Nobunaga's military genius was inseparable from his willingness to embrace innovation. He recognized early the transformative potential of firearms, introduced to Japan by Portuguese traders in 1543. By the 1570s, he had integrated thousands of arquebusiers into his army, training them to fire in disciplined, coordinated volleys that could decimate traditional cavalry charges. At the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, Nobunaga's forces famously repelled the feared cavalry of Takeda Katsuyori, using wooden palisades and coordinated gunfire. This battle illustrated a fundamental shift in Japanese warfare. The era of sword-dominated combat was giving way to disciplined formations, volley fire, and strategic engineering. Nobunaga also invested in artillery, fortifications, and logistics, understanding that control of supply lines and terrain could determine the outcome of entire campaigns. Nobunaga's consolidation of power was not achieved solely through military brilliance. He understood the importance of infrastructure, administration, and economic control. He developed castle towns, Azuchi Castle being the most famous example, around his strongholds. These towns were centers of commerce, administration, and culture, fostering merchants, artisans, and laborers who supplied and benefited from the constant movement of armies. Azuchi Castle itself, with its imposing 7-story tenshukaku and elaborate interior halls, symbolized Nobunaga's vision of a Japan ruled not only by the sword, but also by centralized administration and wealth. Yet Nobunaga's methods were uncompromising. In 1571, he orchestrated the complete destruction of the warrior monks of Mount Hiei, who had long defied his authority. The temples, which had served as both religious centers and military fortresses, were burned and the monks slaughtered. A grim but decisive demonstration that resistance would be met with annihilation. He similarly subdued the Ikoiki uprisings in the Nagashima region, employing siegecraft, firearms, and relentless force. Nobunaga's reputation for ruthlessness was matched by his capacity for pragmatism. He spared those who submitted, integrating them into his growing administration and army. Political maneuvering was equally critical to Nobunaga's success. In 1568, he marched into Kyoto under the pretense of supporting Ashikaga Yoshiaki, a young scion of the shogunate, installing him as a puppet shogun while effectively controlling the imperial court. This move allowed Nobunaga to legitimize his actions without claiming the shogunate outright, consolidating his influence over the central provinces. Over the following decade, Nobunaga systematically defeated or absorbed rival clans, including the Azai and Asakura, and eventually brought much of the Kansai region under his dominion. Despite his dominance, Nobunaga's ascent created enemies both among rival daimyo and within his own ranks. His centralization efforts, patronage of merchants, and destruction of religious institutions alarmed traditional power holders. Ambitious generals and former allies chafed under his authority, plotting their own paths to power. In June 1582, during a visit to the Honnoji Temple in Kyoto, Nobunaga was betrayed by one of his own generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, who launched a surprise attack on the temple where Nobunaga had sought respite. Cornered and with no hope of escape, Nobunaga chose death over capture, perishing in the flames along with many of his attendants. His sudden death left a vacuum in central Japan, threatening to undo the unification he had so meticulously begun. Nobunaga's legacy, however, endured. He had demonstrated that a combination of technological innovation, disciplined armies, strategic alliances, and ruthless decisiveness could dominate a fractured land. He had reshaped not only the political landscape, but also the very methods of warfare and governance. His castle towns became models for administration and commerce, and his army's use of firearms would redefine combat for decades. Though his life was cut short, the structures he created, the integration of economy, military, and political power, would serve as the foundation for the next great unifier, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. As Nobunaga's successors began to consolidate his territories, Japan remained a land of shifting alliances, constant tension, and opportunity for those with vision and ambition. The foundations laid by Nobunaga, the embrace of innovation, the integration of commerce and military power, and the ruthless pursuit of central authority, would shape the final stages of the Sengoku period, guiding the archipelago toward a degree of unity unseen since the collapse of the Ashikaga shogunate nearly a century earlier. The death of Oda Nobunaga in 1582 sent shockwaves across the fractured provinces of Japan. Yet from the embers of his fallen army and the chaos that followed emerged a man whose cunning, ambition, and political brilliance would surpass even his predecessor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Born in 1537 to peasant parents in the Owari region, Hideyoshi's early life offered little indication of the heights he would eventually achieve. Yet through a combination of adaptability, charisma, and keen intelligence, he rose from obscurity to become Nobunaga's most trusted general. When Nobunaga perished at Honnoji, Hideyoshi acted swiftly. Within weeks, he had marshaled Nobunaga's scattered forces and confronted the rebel general Akechi Mitsuhide at the Battle of Yamazaki. Employing a careful understanding of terrain and timing, Hideyoshi's smaller but well-coordinated army crushed Mitsuhide, avenging Nobunaga and establishing himself as the dominant power among Nobunaga's former allies. Hideyoshi's genius lay not merely in battlefield tactics, but in his political strategy and administrative foresight. Whereas Nobunaga relied heavily on fear and military dominance to compel obedience, Hideyoshi combined charisma with a sophisticated understanding of governance, using rewards, marriages, alliances, and intimidation to secure loyalty. He systematically absorbed or neutralized rival daimyo, ensuring that opposition was eliminated not only through combat, but also through diplomacy and clever negotiation. In 1583, Hideyoshi confronted the remaining loyalists of Nobunaga's family and supporters, culminating in the Battle of Shizugatake. This engagement was as much a test of loyalty as of arms. Generals and samurai had to choose between allegiance to Hideyoshi or remaining loyal to Oda's surviving heirs. Victory solidified Hideyoshi's claim to leadership, and his reputation as both a brilliant strategist and a shrewd politician spread across Japan. His approach combined pragmatic mercy with ruthless precision. Those who submitted peacefully retained lands and titles, while those who resisted faced overwhelming force. With central Japan largely under his control, Hideyoshi turned his attention to the outlying regions. The Shikoku campaign of 1585 exemplified his skill in balancing military power with political negotiation. The Chosokabe clan, which had unified the island of Shikoku under their rule, faced Hideyoshi's superior forces. Rather than engage in a prolonged and destructive siege, Hideyoshi offered terms that allowed the Chosokabe to retain a portion of their domain under his suzerainty, effectively bringing Shikoku under his control without unnecessary devastation. Similarly, in 1587, he launched a campaign against the Shimazu clan of Kyushu, whose ambitions threatened southern Japan. Using a combination of overwhelming military force and strategic negotiation, Hideyoshi compelled the Shimazu to submit, further consolidating his power across the archipelago. The final barrier to unification was the Hojo clan, the dominant power in the Kanto region. Their stronghold at Odawara Castle was one of the most formidable fortresses in Japan, surrounded by rivers, swamps, and thick stone walls. In 1590, Hideyoshi assembled an army of unprecedented scale. Estimates suggest over 200,000 men, and laid siege to Odawara. Rather than immediately resorting to storming the castle, Hideyoshi employed psychological warfare, cutting off supplies, controlling waterways, and demonstrating the futility of resistance. After several months, the Hojo surrendered, marking the effective end of independent opposition and bringing all of Japan under Hideyoshi's authority for the first time in a century. Beyond his military campaigns, Hideyoshi implemented sweeping societal reforms that shaped the future of Japan. Perhaps his most famous measure was the Sword Hunt of 1588, which confiscated weapons from peasants and non-military classes. This act served multiple purposes. It prevented uprisings, clearly distinguished the samurai class from commoners, and reinforced the social hierarchy that would dominate the Edo period. Hideyoshi also undertook a comprehensive land survey, recording rice production and establishing fixed tax obligations, providing a clear and organized fiscal framework for governance. These measures not only enhanced central authority, but also stabilized the economy, laying the groundwork for long-term peace. Hideyoshi's vision extended beyond domestic consolidation. He harbored grand ambitions for international conquest, seeking to extend Japanese influence onto the Asian mainland. In 1592, he launched the first invasion of Korea, dispatching tens of thousands of troops across the sea. Initially, Japanese forces achieved significant victories, capturing key fortresses and defeating local armies. Yet the campaign soon became a logistical nightmare. Korean resistance, bolstered by guerrilla tactics and the intervention of Ming Chinese forces, stalled Japanese advances. A second campaign in 1597 met similar difficulties, and by the time of Hideyoshi's death in 1598, Japanese forces had withdrawn entirely. These invasions were costly in lives and resources. Yet they revealed Hideyoshi's ambition to not only unify Japan internally, but to project power externally, demonstrating the confidence and scope of his vision. Culturally, Hideyoshi left a lasting imprint. He patronized the arts, commissioned grand architectural projects, and reinforced the ritual and ceremonial aspects of courtly life. Castles such as Osaka, Fushimi, and Azuchi reflected his desire to merge military functionality with aesthetic grandeur. He also promoted tea ceremonies, theater, and the visual arts, encouraging the blending of traditional Japanese culture with the emerging influences of a more centralized and prosperous society. Hideyoshi's court became a symbol of power, refinement, and cultural patronage, attracting artists, artisans, and scholars from across the country. Despite his successes, Hideyoshi's death in 1598 introduced uncertainty. His heir, Toyotomi Hideyori, was a young child, and the governance of Japan fell to a council of regents, among whom Tokugawa Ieyasu stood out as the most shrewd and patient. While Hideyoshi had achieved the unification of Japan in his lifetime, the durability of that unification would depend on the ability of his successors to manage the intricate web of alliances, loyalties, and ambitions that had been forged during his campaigns. The era of Hideyoshi illustrates the culmination of the Sengoku period's transformation. A nation once fragmented into competing fiefdoms was now under centralized authority. Its military innovations institutionalized, and its social and economic structures reshaped to support peace and stability. He demonstrated that unification was not merely a matter of conquest, but required diplomacy, administrative foresight, and the careful orchestration of both coercion and incentive. The path he carved made the eventual rise of Tokugawa Ieyasu and the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate possible, setting the stage for more than 2 centuries of relative peace and the emergence of a cohesive Japanese state. The death of Toyotomi Hideyoshi in 1598 left Japan in a precarious state. While Hideyoshi had succeeded in unifying the archipelago under his authority, his heir, Toyotomi Hideyori, was a mere child, and the Council of Regents tasked with governing the nation was a fragile assembly of ambitious daimyo. Among them, Tokugawa Ieyasu, a cautious yet calculating lord from Mikawa province, stood out. Ieyasu had cultivated his power meticulously over decades, having survived the chaos of the Sengoku period through patience, diplomacy, and strategic alliances. Unlike Nobunaga, whose brilliance was tempered by recklessness, or Hideyoshi, whose rise relied on charisma and rapid consolidation, Ieyasu's approach was slow, deliberate, and focused on endurance. He understood that ultimate power in Japan would require more than military might. It demanded political foresight, alliances, and the careful orchestration of loyalty. Ieyasu's early life had been shaped by the constant turbulence of the Sengoku period. Born in 1543, he was sent as a hostage to the Imagawa clan during childhood, an experience that taught him both patience and the subtleties of political survival. Over the years, he navigated a complex landscape of alliances with Nobunaga and later Hideyoshi, gaining both experience and respect while steadily expanding his own base of power. By the time Hideyoshi died, Ieyasu controlled the strategic Tokai and Kanto regions, a position that provided both resources and leverage over other daimyo. The fragile balance of power following Hideyoshi's death quickly unraveled. Many daimyo questioned the Regency Council's authority, while loyalists to the Toyotomi clan sought to maintain influence for Hideyori. Ieyasu moved cautiously, building alliances while avoiding premature confrontation. He positioned himself as a protector of stability, using his reputation for fairness and reliability to win the allegiance of both hesitant samurai and wary lords. Yet he also prepared meticulously for conflict, secretly strengthening his forces and securing the loyalty of those who could tip the balance in his favor. This careful strategy culminated in the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, a conflict that would decisively determine the fate of Japan. The battle pitted Ieyasu's Eastern Army against a coalition of Western daimyo loyal to the Toyotomi clan and other rivals. Sekigahara itself was a valley of strategic importance, and the terrain played a pivotal role in the engagement. Ieyasu's command of intelligence, timing, and alliances proved decisive. He had secretly negotiated with several key generals on the opposing side, persuading them to defect at critical moments. As the battle unfolded, betrayal and maneuvering turned the tide. What began as a contest of evenly matched forces became a rout for the Western coalition. Ieyasu's Eastern Army emerged victorious, leaving him as the preeminent power in Japan. In the wake of Sekigahara, Ieyasu moved swiftly to consolidate his authority. He redistributed lands among loyal daimyo, weakening potential rivals while rewarding supporters with strategic provinces. Prominent families that had opposed him were stripped of their holdings or relocated to distant domains, ensuring they could not challenge his power directly. The Toyotomi family, though spared, was gradually marginalized, with Hideyori confined to Osaka Castle under watchful surveillance. Ieyasu's political strategy combined coercion, reward, and foresight, creating a network of loyalty that would endure for centuries. By 1603, Ieyasu's consolidation was complete. He was formally appointed shogun by the emperor, marking the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate and the official end of the Sengoku period. Unlike the Ashikaga shogunate, which had gradually eroded under factionalism and weak leadership, Ieyasu's rule was built on a careful balance of centralized authority and decentralized control over the daimyo. The shogunate implemented strict regulations governing succession, marriage, and territorial boundaries, and enforced policies that minimized the likelihood of rebellion. Samurai were tied more directly to their lords through service and stipends, while the peasantry remained in a clearly defined, hereditary social structure. The sword hunts, cadastral surveys, and rigid class distinctions introduced under Hideyoshi were refined and enforced by Ieyasu, creating a framework for stability that would last more than 2 centuries. Ieyasu also understood the importance of culture, symbolism, and ritual in consolidating power. The Tokugawa court emphasized ceremony, etiquette, and public displays of authority, projecting the image of a disciplined, enduring, and legitimate government. Castles continued to serve as administrative hubs, while towns and cities were carefully monitored to prevent the rise of independent militias or wealthy factions capable of challenging the shogunate. The combination of political prudence, military readiness, and social engineering ensured that Tokugawa authority became entrenched, reducing the frequency of open warfare and creating conditions for a period of unprecedented peace known as the Edo period. Even after formally becoming shogun, Ieyasu remained vigilant. He neutralized potential threats, monitored both daimyo and court officials, and implemented policies to isolate Japan from external influence, which would later culminate in the Sengoku policy of national seclusion. Strategic marriages, hostages from powerful families, and careful management of loyalty prevented the resurgence of rival factions. The Toyotomi heir, Hideyori, remained under surveillance, and any sign of rebellion was met with decisive action, culminating in the siege of Osaka in 1614 to 1615. During this siege, Hideyori's forces mounted a desperate defense of Osaka Castle, but Ieyasu's superior strategy, overwhelming numbers, and methodical siege techniques ultimately prevailed. The castle fell, Hideyori perished, and the Toyotomi line was extinguished, leaving Ieyasu's Tokugawa shogunate unchallenged. The establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate marked more than the end of civil war. It represented the institutionalization of the lessons learned during the Sengoku period. Central authority, strategic governance, and careful manipulation of social hierarchies became the pillars of a new Japan. The shogunate combined military power with administrative efficiency, ensuring that rebellion would be difficult and that authority was both visible and enforceable. Samurai retained their role as the ruling military elite. Peasants maintained fixed obligations, and commerce and culture flourished under the stability of centralized rule. Tokugawa Ieyasu's consolidation of power thus represents the culmination of nearly a century of turbulence, innovation, and ambition. From the ashes of the Onin War, through Nobunaga's daring campaigns and Hideyoshi's political and administrative mastery, Ieyasu's patient and calculated strategies forged a lasting order. The archipelago, once fractured into dozens of fiercely independent domains, was unified under a single authority, setting the stage for over 2 centuries of relative peace, economic growth, and cultural development. Japan's transition from the chaos of the Sengoku period to the stability of the Tokugawa era demonstrates not only the impact of military genius and political skill, but also the profound transformation of society, governance, and identity that war, ambition, and human ingenuity can produce. The Sengoku period was more than a series of wars and political maneuvers. It was a crucible in which Japanese society, culture, and military systems were fundamentally reshaped. Across the archipelago, the constant cycle of conflict created profound social mobility, altered the landscape of urban development, and spurred innovations in both military technology and governance. The effects of this transformative century reverberated long after the last castles fell to Tokugawa Ieyasu, shaping the political and cultural foundation of Japan for centuries to come. The disintegration of central authority during the Onin War and the rise of independent daimyo fundamentally altered traditional hierarchies. The rigid class structures that had defined earlier periods, where samurai, peasants, artisans, and merchants had clearly delineated roles, became increasingly flexible in response to the demands of warfare. Peasants were often conscripted as ashigaru, lightly armed infantrymen, learning to wield spears, bows, and eventually matchlock guns. Some rose to positions of leadership, commanding small units or even entire battalions. Conversely, lower-ranking samurai who proved themselves capable in battle could gain lands or positions previously inaccessible to them. This fluidity, known as Gekkokujo, the low overcoming the high, challenged traditional authority and encouraged merit-based advancement, creating both opportunity and uncertainty across the social spectrum. The warlord-controlled provinces became microcosms of social experimentation. Daimyo relied on loyal retainers, often drawn from former enemies or lower-ranking families, binding them through land grants, strategic marriages, and military obligation. The resulting social mobility allowed for the emergence of influential individuals who would later form the bureaucratic and military backbone of the Tokugawa state. Merchants, too, benefited indirectly from the period's upheavals. Castle towns became centers of trade and production, and those who could supply armies with weapons, food, or transport services accrued wealth and influence previously unavailable to their class. The period saw the emergence of jokamachi, or castle towns, which grew around the sprawling fortresses of ambitious daimyo. These towns were more than military hubs. They were administrative and economic centers, blending defense with commerce. Artisans, merchants, and laborers were drawn to these towns for protection and opportunity, while samurai and their retainers maintained garrisons that could respond to both external threats and internal unrest. Examples include Azuchi, built by Oda Nobunaga, and Osaka, expanded under Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Azuchi, with its towering 7-story Tenshukaku, was both a military fortress and a statement of authority, demonstrating how architecture could project power while serving practical defensive purposes. Castle towns facilitated the growth of a vibrant economy. Markets, workshops, and specialized crafts developed to supply the needs of both the military and civilian populations. Roads linking castles encouraged regional trade and communication, further integrating the provinces despite the chaos of war. Merchants who thrived in these towns laid the foundations for the Edo period economy, creating networks of wealth and influence that would endure long after the last battles of the Sengoku period. Perhaps no aspect of the Sengoku period was more transformative than its innovations in military technology and tactics. The introduction of matchlock firearms, brought by Portuguese traders in 1543, dramatically altered the balance of power. Initially imported in small numbers, these weapons were rapidly reproduced by Japanese gunsmiths. Daimyo, who adopted and integrated firearms into their armies, gained a decisive advantage over traditional cavalry-centered forces. The Battle of Nagashino, 1575, exemplified this evolution. Oda Nobunaga's disciplined lines of arquebusiers, supported by palisades and tactical deployment, devastated the famed cavalry of Takeda Katsuyori. Castle design also evolved in response to new forms of warfare. Stone walls, deep moats, and layered defensive structures replaced simpler wooden fortresses. Towers were constructed not only for defense, but also for observation and signaling. These innovations allowed smaller forces to defend against superior numbers and emphasize strategy over brute strength. Daimyo developed sophisticated supply networks to maintain armies in the field, reflecting a shift toward logistical planning as a key determinant of military success. Tactics evolved alongside technology. Armies were organized into coordinated units capable of combined arms operations, integrating spearmen, archers, gunners, and cavalry. Intelligence, espionage, and psychological warfare became crucial. Deception, surprise attacks, and negotiation often decided the outcome of campaigns as much as force. The Sengoku period thus represents a watershed in Japanese military history, where innovation, organization, and adaptability became as important as personal valor or lineage. Despite, or perhaps because of, the turbulence, the Sengoku period witnessed remarkable cultural development. Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and later Ieyasu were patrons of the arts, commissioning grand castles and sponsoring artistic endeavors that reflected their authority. Hideyoshi's Osaka Castle became a center of not only administration, but also cultural display, adorned with gilded interiors and intricate architectural designs. Nobunaga's Azuchi Castle similarly fused military and aesthetic considerations, symbolizing both strength and sophistication. The period also saw the emergence and formalization of cultural practices that would define Japanese society for centuries. The tea ceremony, refined under figures like Sen no Rikyu, became a ritualized expression of aesthetic and political sensibilities, blending simplicity, discipline, and symbolic authority. Poetry, particularly haiku, evolved alongside these practices, reflecting both the brevity and intensity of life during wartime. Kabuki theater and no performance were further institutionalized, providing both entertainment and cultural cohesion for communities affected by instability. These artistic developments were often intertwined with political power. Patronage became a means of demonstrating authority, rewarding loyalty, and projecting sophistication. The demands of constant warfare spurred advances in governance and economic management. Daimyo needed accurate assessments of the lands under their control to levy taxes and supply armies. Hideyoshi's cadastral surveys, kenchi, and tax reforms standardized rice production records, creating reliable revenue streams. This system also reinforced social hierarchies, clearly defining the obligations of peasants and stabilizing the economy despite the backdrop of ongoing conflict. Trade and commerce expanded, both internally and with foreign contacts, including the Portuguese, Spanish, and Chinese. Merchants became increasingly influential, supplying firearms, construction materials, food, and luxury goods, while ports and trade networks grew in strategic importance. By the end of the Sengoku period, the social, cultural, and military landscape of Japan had been fundamentally transformed. Mobility and opportunity had reshaped hierarchies, urbanization and commerce had integrated regions previously isolated by conflict, and military innovation had rewritten the rules of warfare. Culturally, the period fostered artistic refinement, even amidst violence, blending aesthetic sophistication with practical governance. Economically, structured taxation, trade expansion, and administrative reforms laid the foundation for stability under the Tokugawa shogunate. The Sengoku period, in all its chaos and bloodshed, was not merely a prelude to peace. It was a forge that created the Japan of the early modern era. Through the ambitions of Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu, combined with the ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience of the broader population, Japan emerged from a century of fragmentation into a unified nation capable of sustained governance, cultural flourishing, and military discipline. The transformations of this period would resonate for generations, defining the social structure, political organization, and cultural identity of Japan long after the last battles had been fought. The Sengoku period, spanning more than a century of relentless warfare, social upheaval, and political fragmentation, stands as one of the most transformative eras in Japanese history. From the eruption of the Onin War in 1467 to the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603, Japan underwent a profound metamorphosis. What began as a succession dispute within the Ashikaga shogunate escalated into an era in which nearly every corner of the archipelago was contested by ambitious daimyo, each striving for supremacy in a landscape defined by opportunity, violence, and innovation. By the time Tokugawa Ieyasu consolidated power, Japan had been remade politically, socially, culturally, and militarily, laying the foundation for over 2 centuries of relative peace and stability. Central to the legacy of the Sengoku period was the gradual process of unification. This was not achieved overnight, nor through the efforts of a single individual. Rather, it was the cumulative outcome of successive generations of military and political leadership, each building upon the accomplishments of their predecessors. Oda Nobunaga demonstrated that centralized authority could be imposed through a combination of military innovation, strategic alliances, and ruthless decisiveness. By leveraging firearms, refining siege tactics, and consolidating control over central Japan, Nobunaga created a blueprint for dominance that would influence his successors. Toyotomi Hideyoshi expanded upon Nobunaga's foundation, achieving unification through a careful balance of diplomacy, political reform, and military might. His campaigns across Shikoku, Kyushu, and the Kanto region exemplified the use of negotiation alongside force, demonstrating that war alone was insufficient for lasting authority. Hideyoshi's land surveys, sword hunts, and administrative reforms standardized governance across the nation, centralizing control while creating clear social hierarchies that would persist into the Tokugawa era. Finally, Tokugawa Ieyasu ensured the durability of this unification through meticulous strategy, patience, and political foresight. By carefully consolidating power in the wake of Hideyoshi's death, securing loyalty among Kei daimyo, and decisively defeating rival factions at the Battle of Sekigahara, Ieyasu established the Tokugawa shogunate, creating a political system that would endure for over 250 years. Through these leaders, Japan transitioned from a collection of competing provinces into a unified polity capable of centralized governance, controlled social hierarchies, and internal stability. The Sengoku period reshaped Japanese society in ways that extended far beyond political unification. The collapse of centralized authority created new opportunities for social mobility, challenging long-standing hierarchies. Ashigaru, formerly peasants, could rise to command units of soldiers, while ambitious samurai secured land and influence through loyalty, skill, and opportunity. The emergence of castle towns fostered urbanization, economic activity, and cultural exchange, drawing merchants, artisans, and laborers into concentrated centers of production and administration. Cultural life, paradoxically, flourished amid this turbulence. The period saw the refinement of the tea ceremony, the flourishing of haiku poetry, and the development of kabuki and no theater as enduring art forms. Patronage from Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and later Ieyasu elevated the arts as instruments of authority and cohesion. Architecture, particularly the design of castles such as Azuchi, Osaka, and Edo, reflected a fusion of military necessity and aesthetic sophistication, projecting power while serving practical defensive purposes. The interplay of war and culture during the Sengoku period left a legacy that would influence Japanese society for generations. The century of warfare also revolutionized military practice in Japan. The introduction and integration of firearms transformed tactics and challenged centuries-old conventions of samurai warfare. Battles were no longer determined solely by individual valor or cavalry charges. Disciplined formations, combined arms strategies, and logistical planning became crucial. Castle construction evolved to counter artillery and firearms, with layered defenses, stone walls, and elaborate moats becoming standard. These innovations not only shaped the outcomes of Sengoku-era conflicts, but also influenced Tokugawa-era military doctrine, ensuring that Japan remained prepared for both internal and external threats. The experience of the Sengoku period also demonstrated the critical importance of adaptability, intelligence, and psychological warfare. Leaders who combined strategic foresight with the capacity to innovate, whether in battle, administration, or diplomacy, were able to survive and ultimately prevail. The period reinforced the principle that military might alone was insufficient for lasting authority. Social cohesion, economic stability, and political legitimacy were equally essential. By the time of Ieyasu's establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603, Japan had emerged from over a century of chaos into an unprecedented era of centralized governance and relative peace. The Sengoku period's legacy was multifaceted. Political unity meant that decades of fragmented power were replaced by a stable, hierarchical system that centralized authority under the shogun, while regulating daimyo through strategic control of land, marriage, and loyalty. Social hierarchies and mobility, while strict social classes would dominate under Tokugawa rule. The Sengoku period's earlier fluidity demonstrated the potential for merit-based advancement, particularly within the samurai and warrior classes. Urbanization and commerce allowed castle towns to lay the foundation for modern urban centers, stimulating trade, artisanal production, and a wealthy merchant class that would thrive during the Edo period. Cultural flourishing led to arts, theater, architecture, and ritual practices developing or refining themselves during this period became integral to Japanese identity and persisted long after the guns fell silent. Military and technological innovation ensured the integration of firearms, new formations, and castle fortifications revolutionized warfare, leaving a legacy of tactical sophistication that informed subsequent military thought. In essence, the Sengoku period represents both destruction and creation. While it was marked by near-constant warfare, social instability, and human suffering, it also forged the conditions necessary for a unified, centralized, and culturally vibrant Japan. The ambitions of Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu illustrate the extraordinary capacity of individual leadership to shape history, while the broader transformations of society, economy, and culture reflect the resilience and adaptability of the Japanese people. Ultimately, the Sengoku period is remembered not only as a time of war, but as a crucible in which Japan's modern identity was forged. The era's legacy is visible in the enduring institutions, social structures, and cultural achievements of the Tokugawa period and beyond. Through a century of chaos, Japan emerged stronger, more unified, and more capable of sustaining centralized authority than at any point in its preceding history. The Sengoku period thus stands as both a testament to human ambition and ingenuity, and a foundational chapter in the long story of Japan's national development. The Sengoku period, which concluded in political terms with Tokugawa Ieyasu's victory and the establishment of the shogunate, extended far beyond mere unification. The consequences of over a century of conflict permeated every level of Japanese life, shaping governance, culture, society, and even the philosophy of war in ways that endured well into the Edo period and beyond. The Tokugawa shogunate inherited not just the territories of Japan, but also the administrative innovations developed during the Sengoku period. The meticulous land surveys conducted by Hideyoshi, which recorded rice yields and tax obligations, were refined under Tokugawa administration. These cadastral systems allowed for precise taxation, predictable revenue, and effective allocation of resources for both governance and military readiness. daimyo were bound to the shogunate through both loyalty and oversight. Marriages, hostages, and alternate year residence requirements, sankin kotai, ensured that no lord could accumulate independent power sufficient to threaten central authority. These systems institutionalized a balance of centralized control and regional autonomy, a delicate equilibrium forged from the lessons of Sengoku-era decentralization. The political stability of the Tokugawa period was thus a direct reflection of the trial-and-error governance of the Sengoku era. Leaders learned that centralized authority required both coercive power and sophisticated bureaucratic infrastructure. Decisions regarding succession, territorial control, and conflict resolution were codified in a manner that prevented the rapid rise of independent warlords, avoiding the chaos that had defined the previous century. Economic structures created during the Sengoku period had enduring effects under Tokugawa rule. The proliferation of castle towns had established networks of commerce, crafts, and trade, drawing populations into urban centers where specialized labor could thrive. Merchants who had grown wealthy by supplying armies or castle towns became vital to the economy, creating a class that, while officially beneath the samurai, wielded substantial influence. Roads, ports, and river routes developed during wartime became arteries of trade, integrating regional economies into a more cohesive national system. Rice markets and standardized coinage allowed wealth to circulate more efficiently, setting the stage for a burgeoning domestic economy and a merchant class that would become central to Japan's social fabric in the Edo period. The era's economic innovations also included systems for mobilizing labor and resources for large-scale projects. Castle construction, irrigation works, and road building demonstrated the capacity for coordinated effort at unprecedented scale. The same organizational skills that had enabled Hideyoshi to launch massive military campaigns were adapted to peacetime projects, laying the groundwork for infrastructure that would support centralized rule for centuries. Culturally, the Sengoku period's legacy was profound. Artistic expression, patronage, and ceremony, while initially instruments of warlord prestige, evolved into enduring institutions. The tea ceremony, haiku, no, and kabuki performance became not only entertainment, but also markers of social order and sophistication. Castles and urban centers, designed as both military and cultural hubs, served as focal points for art, literature, and philosophy. Nobunaga's Azuchi Castle, Hideyoshi's Osaka Castle, and later Tokugawa Edo Castle exemplified the fusion of martial strength and cultural symbolism. This dual emphasis on power and aesthetics reflected a broader understanding that governance depended as much on perception, ritual, and social cohesion as on force. Even the concept of social order, refined under Hideyoshi and formalized by Ieyasu, had cultural dimensions. The delineation of classes, restrictions on weapons for commoners, and control over movement reinforced societal hierarchy while simultaneously fostering identity and belonging. Cultural norms, ceremonies, and public displays of authority helped stabilize a society that had endured centuries of violent disruption. The innovations in warfare during the Sengoku period continued to influence military doctrine long after the era ended. The integration of firearms, improved fortifications, and disciplined unit tactics became permanent features of Japanese military organization. Even under peace, castle garrisons and regional militias maintained readiness, reflecting an understanding that stability required vigilance. The strategic and logistical expertise developed during this century of conflict ensured that Japan could maintain internal order without frequent large-scale warfare. Furthermore, the lessons of Sengoku-era leadership, the importance of intelligence, strategic patience, loyalty management, and the interplay of diplomacy and force, remained central to Tokugawa governance. leaders recognized that authority was fragile without legitimacy, economic stability, and cultural cohesion, and that innovation and adaptability were as crucial to survival as martial skill. By the end of the Sengoku period, Japan had been transformed from a fractured landscape of competing daimyo into a unified nation under a central authority capable of sustaining peace and order. The era had imposed hard lessons in governance, warfare, and society, and the structures established during and immediately after this period would endure for centuries. Tokugawa Japan inherited a population that had become accustomed to the mobility, adaptability, and resilience forged by a century of conflict, as well as a system of towns, trade, and culture that could support long-term stability. The legacy of the Sengoku period is thus multifaceted. Militarily, it fostered technological innovation and tactical sophistication. Politically, it demonstrated the necessity of centralized authority combined with strategic oversight of regional powers. Socially and economically, it reshaped hierarchies, urban centers, and commerce, laying the groundwork for a thriving merchant and artisan class. Culturally, it inspired artistic and ceremonial traditions that reinforced authority, cohesion, and identity. Most importantly, it prepared Japan for an era of stability, enabling the Tokugawa shogunate to maintain peace for over 2 centuries and setting the stage for the eventual modernization of the nation. In hindsight, the Sengoku period stands as both a time of chaos and a crucible of creation. Its century of warfare, ambition, and upheaval produced not only unified political control, but also enduring transformations in society, culture, and military organization. The audacity of leaders like Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu, combined with the adaptability and resilience of the broader population, forged a Japan that was stronger, more cohesive, and better equipped to navigate both internal and external challenges. The era's enduring influence is visible not only in historical records and cultural achievements, but also in the very structure of Japanese society, governance, and identity that emerged long after the last battles were fought. The Sengoku period, therefore, is remembered not simply as an age of conflict, but as the formative crucible in which modern Japan was born. United, resilient, and culturally rich, poised for centuries of continuity and growth under a system forged in both fire and ingenuity. And there you have it, a journey through over a century of chaos, ambition, and transformation. From the battles of Okehazama and Sekigahara to the rise of Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu, the Sengoku period reshaped Japan forever. It was a time when the sword met innovation, when castles became centers of power and culture, and when the foundations of modern Japan were forged in fire and strategy. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Japan's Warring States era, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more historical explorations. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think was the most influential leader of the Sengoku period? And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a journey into the past. Until next time, stay curious and let history inspire your present.